of the Citizens Bureau conforms to the strategic initiative under Goal 3 of the Corporate Strategic Plan of Parliament and the Parliamentary Service, which aims to strengthen the representational role of Parliament and promote public involvement in the work of the House. As the fulcrum of our democracy, Parliament continues to articulate the concerns of the Ghanaian people, shape policies to reflect the aspirations of the citizenry, as well as exercise oversight over the actions of the executive arm of government. Parliament also passes legislation to engender public accountability, transparency, and civic participation in the governance process. Over the years, however, a significant section of the Ghanaian populace is oblivious of the functions of Parliament and the effect of its work on the governance and administration of the nation. This is primarily due to the lack of a dedicated platform where Parliament could effectively disseminate information and citizens could, to the citizens, with clarity on national and constituency-related issues, leading to growing mistrust of constituents towards the representatives. It is therefore timely that the Citizens Bureau has been established as part of the solutions to the erroneous perception that Ghanaians have about Parliament. Indeed, the only cure to misinformation is accurate information. I therefore call on members of the media fraternity, as well as our friends in the various civil society organizations and think tanks, to continue to partner with Parliament through the Citizens Bureau to facilitate the transmission of relevant and accurate information in real time. The Parliamentary Service remains resolute in providing the requisite technical and procedural support services required by Parliament in the discharge of its constitutional mandate. We will continue to align the objectives of the service with demands of citizens and improve institutional structures to optimize service delivery to honorable members of Parliament. With the institutionalization of the Citizens Bureau, the service will do its utmost best to provide resources to sustain the achievements of the Parliament of Ghana as first on the Africa Open Parliament Index for the year 2022.
The leadership of Parliament, honorable members, ministers of state, deputy clerk to Parliament, members of the diplomatic corps, officials from Parliament, colleagues from civil society, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of civil society organizations and on my own behalf, let me start by commending the Right Honorable Speaker and the leadership of Parliament for establishing the Citizens Bureau within the Parliament of Ghana, one of the very few in the world of parliaments. Where parliaments and their committees work very closely with civil society organizations and citizens to create a common platform to advance the cause of oversight and accountability. Civil society organizations' downstream role is representation of and engagement with different sections of society that experience firsthand the results of implementation of government policy and services. Globally, civil society organizations are recognized as advocates and watchdogs. Collaboration between parliaments and civil society organizations can therefore prove beneficial as each provides complementary forums for representation that is otherwise constrained by its selective structures and operations. Mr. Speaker, Inputs from civil society organizations in many countries have created added value to the policy planning and implementation process, while enhancing the legitimacy, awareness of, and long-term applicability of government policy and planning initiatives through a wide range of contributions. Civil society organizations have played an essential role in the context of state services or lack of services, and challenges in the development of areas such as education, health, governance, transparency, and accountability. Among the many areas, they said, strengthening democracy and contributing to development are most crucial. Mr. Speaker, regrettably, in many countries, rather than collaboration, we witness an environment of mutual mistrust between citizens, civil society organizations on the one hand, and legislators and their members on the other. Mr. Speaker, in Ghana, several civil society organizations have access to Parliament and have engaged the institution on different issues, either as a collective or as single entities. However, there is little proof that the work civil society organizations do, i.e., data from local levels, research, and citizens' convenings, find expression in the work of Parliament. Parliament in its functions requires information and reliable data and evidence to inform decision-making. While Parliament today is much more resourced than decades ago, the institution still lacks the needed structures to support members in the discharge of their constitutionally mandated functions. This is where collaboration with civil society organizations becomes critical and beneficial. To be sure, Right Honorable Speaker, civil society organizations are repositories of knowledge, data, and evidence in their various areas of expertise that could benefit the work of Parliament. Over the years, there's been the drive by most civil society organizations, including our own, the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, through our Data for Accountability project with Parliament, to make our democracy one that is driven by data and evidence, rather than by opinions and wishes of decision makers. Today's event, Mr. Speaker, is a significant milestone in making our democracy one that is driven by data and evidence. An important window has been opened for civil society organizations and other data generators to contribute to the growth of our parliamentary democracy. Mr. Speaker, the presence of many captains of civil society organizations here this morning is a clear testimony that we stand ready to work with Parliament and together find a common platform to advance the cause of oversight and accountability, as well as make our democracy beneficial to our citizens. It is our hope that the official bond created between Parliament and civil society organizations and citizens through the establishment of the Citizens Bureau will be one that will endure for years to come, and one that would contribute to the common collective good of our dear country. Long live our democracy. I thank you very much.
Right Honorable Speaker, for such a noble initiative. Mr. Speaker,
members of the diplomatic and honorable colleagues, you recall that not long ago, Parliament celebrated 30th anniversary for the Fourth Republic. It is indeed a great honor for us to today witness the inauguration of a Citizens Bureau that is obviously setting Ghana on the right path. I've been told that this is the first of its kind in the entire of Africa. We are strongly believe that the time has come for Parliament to open up even more. And that is why today is a major milestone for us to inaugurate such a noble institution of setting up what we call the Citizen Bureau.
Again, let me recognize the fact that
over the years, CSOs and members of the public have reached out to us individually in requesting from us information that ideally should have been made public. Parliament oftentimes has engaged the CSOs on an ad hoc manner. This will be the first time that we will have a structured approach where we'll be engaging the CSOs and the general public. That is why I'm particularly enthused by setting up such a great facility. It will again help to facilitate engagement and sharing of information between Parliament and CSOs and the general public. Speaker, this is in fulfillment of Right Honourable Speaker's initiative of open Parliament. And I believe that members of Parliament, the general public, and the CSOs should take full advantage of this great initiative. A lot is happening in Parliament. For example, the new standing orders of Parliament has opened up the committee sittings of Parliament to the public. And that is also a step to open up the work we do here in Parliament, so that openness will obviously ensure transparency. When there is transparency, clearly, the public will understand the work we do, and going forward, appreciate the work Parliament has been doing over the years. This is a democracy that all of us have a responsibility to protect, and we have to protect this democracy by ensuring that we open up to the public. Right Honourable Speaker, let me once again thank you for such a noble initiative, and I believe the public, the CSOs, will take full advantage in ensuring that they participate in this resolution.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely delighted to be a part of the inauguration of the Citizens Bureau office here at the Parliament. This is an important step towards providing a channel to partner with civil society organizations and identifying strategic opportunities to institutionalize transparency, participation, and accountability. It will also strengthen the open Parliament initiatives that the Inter-Parliamentary Union has been hammering on all this while, to ensure that the voices of citizens are not only heard, but actively included in the legislative process. The Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs has established a receptacle of this nature in the ministry, and indeed provides a group not only to provide citizens with the agenda of government and Parliament, but also to have their reflections on the agenda that we take out there and also feed it into the legislative process. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a problem when citizens do not understand the work of Parliament and do not get access to parliamentary information that empower them to actively participate in the legislative process. The dissonance between citizens and their representatives brings about mistrust and apathy on issues relating to governance. As Parliament continues to undergo significant reforms towards strengthening accountability, responsiveness, accessibility, and inclusivity, institutionalizing the relationship between Parliament and civil society organizations, including think tanks, to deliver sustainable development to the people of Ghana has become very crucial. As we may all know, civil society organizations, just like parliaments, represent the voices of the people they serve, especially the marginalized communities and the underrepresented groups. They provide a platform for active engagement, enabling citizens to participate in decision-making processes that directly impact their lives. This enables them to bring diversity of perspectives, experiences, and expertise that ensure that policy discussions are comprehensive and inclusive. At the heart of parliamentary democracy lies the principle of representation and accountability. In this regard, civil society organizations act as watchdogs, holding government and policymakers to be representative and to account. Their role in monitoring policy implementation, advocating for transparency, and demanding accountability ensures that public resources are utilized efficiently and for the greater good of the populace. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past years, Parliament Ghana has made commendable strides in embracing open government practices. With the use of technology, parliamentary proceedings have become accessible to the public through live streams and online archives. The new digital tools such as Facebook, parliamentary website, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube, and the Parliamentary Watch mobile app have made it possible for citizens to be informed about the work of Parliament. Information on the calendar of parliamentary business, as a parliamentary agenda for meetings, votes and proceedings, order papers, Hansard, and the status of pending legislations, among others, are all published on the parliamentary website. The public who visit Parliament are also not left out in this, as proceedings are displayed on installed mini monitors and televisions at strategic points. Additionally, we have taken notable steps to engage citizens through surgeries, consultations, public forums, and town hall meetings. These initiatives have enabled members of Parliament to directly interact with their constituents, understand their needs, and represent their interests much more effectively and efficiently. We do also engage civil society organizations and think tanks through programs such as the Speaker's Breakfast meetings that the Office of Speaker organizes, and seminar series that the Research Department used to organize. In this regard, ensuring the continuity and sustainability of these initiatives is very important, and I believe that the Office of the Citizen Group will be of strong benefits in this regard. Civil society organizations continue to play a major role, especially in the legislative process, and their response to invitations to submit memoranda have been swift and timely most of the times. That notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, soliciting inputs from the citizens and the civil society organizations is good, but equally important is the commitment to incorporate inputs from the feedback into the wider legislative process. Failure to use the evidence gathered has the potential to discourage participation from future consultations, and this can exacerbate the feelings of citizens and distrust. In this vein, conscious efforts need to be made to integrate feedback from the citizens into the legislative process. Mr. Speaker, Chair, the Constitution provides for the Council of State to partner Parliament in the business of legislation. I believe the effort today should be a wake-up call to formalize a structured engagement with the Council of State in order for us to be properly aligned with and to each other. The Speaker, as you all do know, the Constitution enjoins the Council of State to, and I quote, and that is per Article 89 of the Constitution, to consider and advise the President on any or any other authority in respect of any appointment which is required by the Constitution or any other law to be made in accordance with the advice of or in consultation with the Council of State. Specifically, it provides in 89 that upon request, and I'm quoting, upon request or on its own initiative, the Council of State is to consider and make recommendations on any matter being considered or being dealt with by the President, Minister of State, Parliament, or any other authority established by the Constitution. The Speaker, what it means is that the Council of State should be in constant engagement with us so that they know what we are doing here in Parliament. So that if a bill is passed, it's sent to the President for his assent, and the President refers it to the Council of State, The council stated, having followed the transaction of business in Parliament, then will be properly placed to offer the requisite advice to the President. Ladies and gentlemen, in the process of institutionalizing our commitment to open government values, establishing the office of the Citizen Bureau is not an end in itself. There is a need to develop an open Parliament action plan which would establish a multi-stakeholder open Parliament steering committee to ensure that the plan becomes a reality. I am aware that some efforts are being made with regard to the development of an action plan. The members of Parliament of the National Open Government Partnership Steering Committee and some civil society partners are working to ensure that open Parliament commitments are incorporated into the National Action Plan. Speaker, I believe that this effort should also spur us to develop a proper interface between Parliament and the NCCE, inferring directly the outlooks and perspectives of the populace into whatever we do. The NCCE, fortunately for us, and by the constitutional provision, has their offices in accord with the constitution in all the districts. The civil society organizations are doing their best. But in terms of spread, they have a better spread. And it's important that we structure our engagement with them. I would therefore urge that we hasten this process so that budget provisions, and the budget is around the corner, in November. In fact, we started the process of fashioning the budget, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that is important for us to conclude this business in order for us to factor the implementation of this into our own budget. As we embrace our collaborative efforts, we must recognize that the true progress lies in fostering an open and consultative dialogue. In this vein, the establishment of the Citizen Bureau office signifies our commitment to participatory democracy, one in which the power to shape our collective future is not confined to the corridors of Parliament, but extends to the very hearts of our communities. It symbolizes a recognition that every citizen's voice matters, and every perspective enriches the tapestry of our nation's growth. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I commend the efforts of the civil society organizations present here today and across the nation. As we continue this journey, may we never forget that our ultimate responsibility is to the people that we serve. Their voices, their aspirations, and dreams should always guide our actions. Together, let us forge ahead, hand in hand, towards a future where collaboration, empathy, and understanding are the cornerstones of our policy-making process. Thank you very much. May we continue to uphold the principles of democracy and open governance with unwavering dedication. God bless our home and governance.
The acting coordinating director of the Public Affairs Department and the MC for this occasion, the Voices of Democracy, let me thank you so much for your sweet voices. And I want to repeat to organizers that as we move around the country, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Fourth Republic, please kindly always take them along. We need to listen to the voices of democracy all over the country, not only in Accra. I will respectfully ask for your indulgence to stand on the existing protocol, acknowledging everybody present, because I realize other distinguished personalities entered during the course of the proceedings. It is really with a very great relief to see this inaugural ceremony of the Citizens Bureau come to fruition. And it is with immense joy that I share this occasion with all of you present. Today, we do not only witness the induction of civil society actors and other interested groups and individuals into the work stream of the legislature and to a front row on issues of governance, but we also celebrate the partnership between Parliament and civil society that the Citizens Bureau represents. Our mandate as duty bearers will only have meaning for the people we serve if we ensure the active participation of significant segments of the society in the work of Parliament. We must ensure that our work as a legislature advances the best interests of the people by including their thoughts and perspectives in what we do, by carrying them along in our work. As the world evolves, so do the beliefs, needs, challenges, hopes, and aspirations of the people we represent. We fail as a legislature if these do not find expression in the laws we pass and the decisions and interventions we make. The case for the Citizens Bureau is therefore clearly made out. Civil society organizations and the media play very important roles in our democracy. They constitute the intervening force between the governed and governments. They are the conscience of society and shape laws, policies, and regulations using their research findings. They are trusted sources of information by the public and also by both internal and external organizations. I'm sure this is what prompted our illustrious African, His Excellency, the late Nelson Mandela, to say, and I want to quote what he said, if we want any significant development, we must co-opt civil society, unquote. By constantly setting the agenda for public discourse, the media shines the light on issues requiring oversight and scrutiny. The media also gives a voice to the voiceless by amplifying the issues that are of concern to the man on the streets. Formalizing the relationship between Parliament and civil society, including the media, is therefore a must-do. It is a win-win for Parliament and the citizens. Besides, Goal 3 of Parliament's corporate strategy seeks to strengthen the representational role and public involvement in the work of Parliament. With this in mind, I commissioned a survey in 2022 to better appreciate the experiences of civil society organizations in their interaction with Parliament over the years. A validation meeting was held with a representative group of the civil society, and the nod was definitely given to the findings of the survey. The intention was to use the recommendations as building blocks to strengthen Parliament's relationship with civil society organizations and, by extension, the citizens we represent. The survey showed that 80.9% of respondents supported the creation of a unit to deepen citizens' participation in Parliament's work, given the disconnect between the House and the people they serve. Hence,
the establishment of the Citizens Bureau. How do we restore the confidence and trust in our democracy? I'm sure the short piece you all witnessed is loud evidence of the urgent need for us to try to recapture the confidence and trust of our people. Distinguished participants, what seems to be clear in recent times, and which has manifested mostly in the Sahel region of Africa, is the growing disconnect between Africa's leaders or political elites and the people they serve. This has led to mistrust and erosion of the confidence that the electorate has in political leadership, and in fact, leadership of the society in general. It has also led to a reversal in the gains that democracy has made in the past 2 to 3 decades. Consequently, in today's Africa, we have seen military coups d'etat in many countries, including Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, Sudan, Guinea, and just last week, Niger. We all witness the anger or anguish and frustration of our people. This should be of concern as it distracts from efforts at consolidating democracy in Africa. Reconnecting Parliament to the people is therefore a very urgent responsibility of Parliament and all members of Parliament. The July 2022 Afrobarometer survey by the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD, revealed a preference for democracy as a form of government. But it also registered a dissatisfaction with its course and delivery. So the issue is not that our people don't value democracy. Their concern is how we go about practicing democracy and delivering results. The respondents did not trust democratic institutions to deliver on their mandate relative to the promises they make. Neither did they trust the politician to place Africa, or let me be specific, Ghanaians' interests, apprehensions, and aspirations at the center of decisions they make. The rating on trust was as follows. Courts, that is the judiciary, they had 10%. His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, had 14%. Our police service had 7%. The Parliament of Ghana had 8%. Assemblyman or assemblywoman had 5%. And the Electoral Commission had 10%. So the Electoral Commission that you keep on criticizing is even more respected than you, parliamentarians and parliaments. That was indeed a damning rating on trust. Honorable members, I think we have to take a very serious view of this report. As representatives of the people and as political leaders, we have our work cut out for us. What do we do now to rebuild trust in the democratic process? We should not forget that the trust, generally, trust is very fragile. Once broken, it is difficult to bring it back in its original shape or form. So let's ask ourselves, how do we restore the confidence of our people in us as leaders? How do we make democracy meaningful to citizens? How do we build democratic institutions that our people will believe in? The answers to these questions largely lie in the active participation of citizens in the democratic process through sustained engagement. This is part of what the Citizens Bureau will work to achieve. The huge dissonance between our words as politicians and our actions has been worrying, particularly during political contests. We engage in assurances and promises, the delivery of which are oftentimes not supported by any empirical data. The illiterate see us as riding on their shoulders to assess political power, and for them, everything seems to end after victory. This is part of the reason why political campaign in Ghana has become highly transactional, with instant benefits, personal benefits to the voter as the currency for the transaction. And so we have the term, it is our cocoa season. The effect of this on trust, confidence, and integrity is immense. Besides, those who represent feel alienated from political discourses. We hardly seek the views on matters that are dear to them and that we have to make a determination on. I dare say, for example, that for the wide consultation and engagement of stakeholders on the promotion of human sexual rights and family values bill and the interest it generated among various groups, the outcome of the final law would have been skewed in favor of probably a few whose orientation on the content of the bill might have been warped at best. And so you see the time we've taken to work on that bill and to capture the concerns of all, to make sure that at the end of the day, this is a model law that will be followed by many, many countries in the world. So what is the way forward? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we must first and foremost address the current mistrust of the political system and prioritize involving significant individuals and groups in what we do. The majority leader and the minority leader have drawn our attention to some of those significant groups. And that is why committees have been insisting that in our celebration, for example, of the 30th anniversary, we move with the NCCE. I'm yet to see their active participation in the work we do. Ghana's 1992 Constitution establishes a democratic system that guarantees that sovereignty resides in the people. So ours is unlike the British system, where sovereignty resides in Parliament. The government must therefore deploy the powers vested in it in the interest and well-being of the people. And the best way to do this is to involve them in whatever we do. Running for office as representatives of the people comes with a duty to place them at the center of decisions we make and the laws we pass. Our ability to consistently engage significant stakeholders and understand their perspectives will determine the quality of our representation. It is that narrative of engagement that the Citizens Bureau intends to rewrite. Let me just give you a peep into what the Citizens Bureau is. It's our intention and our commitment to create a platform and a channel for disseminating information to Parliament's key stakeholders, whilst gathering information and their perspectives to enhance representation, law and policy formulation, and the oversight responsibilities of Parliament to meet the expectations of citizens. The Citizens Bureau will build a database of all civil society organizations and think tanks in Ghana and enable easy two-way information sharing, including research findings. It is to create, as I stated in the documentary, a one-shop base, not only for give and take, but also for active participation of our equally very important stakeholders. The Citizens Bureau, working with the Parliament's communication teams, will organize training for the media and civil society organizations so they understand Parliament better. It will support public education on the work of Parliament and duties of the members of Parliament and help with the Speaker's engagement activities. You realize that whilst your constituents are calling on you on a daily basis to be at their doorstep, to engage them, not just from community to community, but from family to family, they are at the same time against you being given financial support as loans to even buy the vehicles to reach out to them. So there must be a disconnect. There must be a problem. But a few days ago, one of our diplomats had a discussion with me. And he said initially he was against members of Parliament being given this facility to acquire robust and very hardy vehicles like four wheels to use. But after he visited some sections of our society in Ghana, then it dawned on him that the member of Parliament couldn't perform his duties of reaching out to his constituents without the support of these vehicles because of the lack or total absence in some areas of public transport because of the inaccessible nature of some of our communities and because of the pressure of work on the MP, who is supposed to be on the floor of Parliament and at the same time attending all activities in the constituency, including funerals, outdoorings, weddings, civil society meetings, students' meetings, churches, making donations on daily basis, and yet not be paid sufficient salary. This is what we have in Ghana, and we must all work to address it. The ultimate purpose for this bureau is also to work towards an open parliament and develop an engagement model for parliament. Yes, we've been ranked the most open and transparent parliament in Africa. That is 2022. The assessment is coming next year. Are we going to maintain the same position? We have to ask ourselves. My interaction with my colleagues in Cameroon recently showed that other parliaments are also coming with new initiatives to try to contest and take away that position from us. Please, honorable members, you need to seriously come on board. And whatever we discuss during the course of a meeting, when you are on recess, please carry it back to the people. Let us continue to engage them on a daily basis. So the Citizens Bureau is proof of Parliament's dedication to democratic values and principles and to protect Ghana's democracy. We need to do is to widen the scope, to bring in more participation, inclusiveness, more importantly, that for gender, for the youth, and for the physically challenged. We will always ensure that all shades of opinions are heard as we work to improve upon the lives of Ghanaians. We must bridge the gap between the political elite and citizens and allow the people to actively participate in issues that affect them. We are not elected for the intelligentsia. We are not just elected to represent those who have voices. We are elected to represent everybody. As Marian Anderson, the American singer, said, I quote, "Leadership should be born out of the understanding of the needs of those who will be affected by it," unquote. This statement informed the choice of the theme for this inauguration. And the theme is promoting parliamentary responsiveness and openness through information sharing, civic engagement, and public accountability. With this, I want to conclude. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate 30 years of parliamentary democracy and reflect on our journey thus far, it should be clear that efforts at safeguarding Ghana's democracy will not be complete unless we increase access to the legislature and remain accountable. The author Tom Smith said, I quote, "An attitude of accountability lies at the core of any effort to improve the quality of life, satisfy people, empower individuals, cultivate impactful leadership, maximize effectiveness, and achieve better results, unquote. The first step toward accountability begins with oneself. After all, we've all been saying it. Charity begins at home. And so, Parliament, led by the Parliamentary Service Board and my good self, be submitting a lot of reports on the performance of Parliament itself, including for the first time submitting reports for deliberation on the floor of Parliament on the accounts, audited accounts of Parliament. We must hold ourselves accountable first before we can hold others accountable. And so as you go utilizing your funds, please, honorable members, take note. You'll be called upon to account for the use of the common fund, the GET fund, the national health insurance, and whatever is entrusted into your care. In addition, we must demonstrate patriotism in what we do. That is why in the new standing orders, we have included the recitation of the national pledge. Very important. Because if you are not patriotic, how can you lead? The other thing we are addressing, as you know, is the fact that we want Ghanaians in the diaspora to support us to develop. And so we want to include them in the register to vote wherever they are. And you say you are giving them the right to vote. The right to vote includes not only to vote for somebody, but also to be voted for. That is why we have the constitutional amendment. So that those offices that will disqualify them from standing, we think twice, reflect over it. You don't claim that because you are living in Ghana, you are more patriotic than those living outside. Meanwhile, when President Obama was elected president in the US, you were happy and proud that your son has been elected president somewhere. Yet you don't want your own citizens who, by some circumstances, have left, not to be elected as president of Ghana. Please, this is contradiction in terms. We have to do away with that. Let us work to progressively open up Parliament to the people and involve them in what we do. How else can we have a shared responsibility towards protecting Ghana's democracy? On this note, honorable members, distinguished invited guests, I have the honor and pleasure to, on your behalf, declare the Citizens Bureau of Ghana's Parliament duly inaugurated. I thank you all for your patience and listenership.